Perspective with TT, Monday to Thursday, 8 p.m. to midnight.
Coming up for 22 minutes before 10 on the Power Perspective. Now, there's some really groundbreaking developments here in the battle and the fight against HIV. So, on the 18th of June, so recently as that last week, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration approved the first medicine to prevent HIV that only has to be taken twice a year. Now, people who are at high risk for HIV can now take the injection called, and bear with me here if I do butcher it, it's called lenacapavir, and is sold as Yestugo. Just once every 6 months. That would be the requirement. So while anti-HIV drug treatments have helped millions of people suppress the virus to undetectable levels so that they don't spread it to others, and have also allowed people who are HIV negative to maintain their status when used to prevent infection. A regimen of daily pills, though, means that compliance and therefore effectiveness is often not as strong as it should be. Let's find out more then about this miracle medicine. Okay, maybe not call it a miracle medicine, but let's find out more anyway. Well, it is something. If it is as effective as it is reported, then it is something of a major breakthrough there. So joining me on the line is a public health medicine specialist at Anova Health Institute and co-chair of the South African AIDS Conference. Dr. Kate Rees is on the line. Good morning, or rather good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's start first of all with the pronunciation of this medicine. Lenacapavir, or what was the correct pronunciation?
Yes, that's not bad. Lenacapavir.
Okay. All right. There we go. Please tell us in very general terms and layman's terms that we can understand it. Tell us more about this medicine and how it works and why it is such a game changer.
Right. So lenacapavir is what we call an antiretroviral medication.
Mm-hmm.
That means it stops the HIV virus from completing its life cycle in human cells. So what it means is that if a person is taking it, even if they're exposed to HIV, the virus can't integrate into their cells and they can't get HIV.
Mm.
So we call this PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis, meaning prevention. It's something that can be used before you know that you're going to encounter some risk, and you can be prepared ahead of time.
Mm. Mm. Okay. Now, how does it differ from what has been on the market in terms of other pre-exposure prophylaxis?
So why we are considering it a breakthrough and why everyone is so excited about this drug, firstly, is because it's incredibly effective, but mostly it's because of what you mentioned earlier, that it only needs to be taken once every 6 months in the form of an injection. That's really incredible. At the moment, the pills that we have available in South Africa, you have to take them every day. And there's so many reasons that it's difficult for people to take pills every day, especially people who really need prevention. So just remember that it's healthy people. So visiting a clinic and a pharmacy, it can be quite an inconvenience. But there's also a stigma then around taking PrEP, partly because the drug is the same as the drugs that are used to treat HIV. So there's questions around people's HIV status. And then there are also some assumptions about sexual behavior, maybe that people who want to use PrEP are sleeping around or other myths like that. If you think of a twice yearly injection, that overcomes so many of those barriers, and that's why this drug is so exciting for us.
Is there not a danger then that, as much as, this is an exciting breakthrough, that some of the unintended consequences when you find things that make it even easier, that some could even go to the extent of saying this could actually encourage reckless behavior, if people know that, there is this product on the market that I can just use, and then that means I can basically go wild.
Yeah, that's a good question. Because we've had these types of PrEP products on the market for some time, people have done quite a bit of research on this already. And they've seen that for the most part, people don't, they call it content for being on PrEP, and it actually doesn't change people.
Then there's always, of course, the question to ask is around cost.
It's something that's very empowering.
Yeah. Sorry there. I think we had lost each other there, Dr. Kate. I think I'd lost you there, and I think when you came back, you were in the middle of making a point. Just go back. You were still talking about the research that was done in terms of how people's behavior has changed with the availability of other pre-exposure prophylaxis.
Yeah, so we've already had a chance to find out that, in fact, PrEP doesn't make people take riskier or make riskier choices. And actually what it does is it just empowers people to protect themselves, whatever their circumstances.
Okay, let's talk about the difference, just when it comes to the research that has gone into coming up with a product such as this one here. I don't know how, let me try and see you get a way of phrasing this question. Is it easier, and I'm using the word easier very guardedly here, in the sense that to work on preventative or this pre-exposure, like this prophylaxis kind of treatment, as opposed to trying to find a cure? It just seems that a lot of the research that is geared is more towards prevention. What informs that?
Well, this is really not my area of expertise.
Sure.
But what I can tell you is that to find a cure for HIV is incredibly complicated. It requires a lot of delving into things that we call reservoirs in the human body, and all the kind of close cures we've been able to find so far are completely unattainable for the majority of people. On the other hand, these antiretroviral medications have been around for about more than 20 years, and they've been getting better and better. And so, yes, it is much easier to develop a drug that is very, very effective compared to a cure, which, while we are still aiming for that and people are still spending, a lot of time and energy on that, it's not on the horizon just yet.
I mentioned in the introduction that the drug has been approved in the United States by the Food and Drug Administration. Has it been tested anywhere else in the world, and is it available anywhere else in the world?
It was tested. It wasn't tested in the United States. It was tested in Africa. But it has. What happens is normally that drugs will be licensed first at the FDA. That they kind of got a gold standard process. And once it's been approved by the FDA, then it can start, the drug company could start to introduce it into other markets. One of the barriers to this at the moment is the really unattainable cost of the drug. So it won't be introduced into markets like South Africa just yet.
And what is the reason behind it being so prohibitively expensive?
So when we say so prohibitively expensive, we're talking in the region of $28,000 per year per person.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, it's really a lot. And it's because drug companies spend millions of dollars investigating potential drugs, starting in the lab, moving into large clinical trials. It all costs a lot of money. And they have to make that money back within the first few years of a product being on market before the patent expires and it goes out to generic. So it's got nothing to do with how expensive a drug is to manufacture. Researchers have estimated that the price, it can be manufactured at about $40 or even $25 per person a year, which is such a different number. And it's what South Africa pays for our oral PrEP available today, the full today. So as much as these companies have got the strong incentive to price the drug high, we've got to recognize that this is a global public health issue. So many advocates and organizations like UNAIDS are calling for price decreases, and some deals have already started being negotiated. We need to kind of balance the corporation's profits against human lives, and especially African lives.
And how long will the patents then be protected, in terms of before it'll be allowed for generic versions to be produced out there? How does that generally work?
Yeah, so for most drugs, it's 20 years.
Okay.
But it can take a long time for market procedures to happen, and so it can be less than that. In this case, because it showed such amazing results early on, there's been a lot of pressure on Gilead, the drug company, to make it available more quickly. And so they have already been negotiating with other companies to be able to provide it in certain countries. So we're going to see it much, much sooner than that. But it is still going to take a bit of time to get all of that moving, and we should continue to put pressure on Gilead to provide the drug.
Let's talk a little bit more about the company that was driving the research and that eventually got onto this, and or at least successfully ran these tests. Just tell us a little bit more about the research and how long this had been in the making.
So this drug was already being used had already been developed as an antiretroviral therapy, so to treat people with HIV. And it was then tested as a possible prevention method. So it's been around for a while already, and it was just tested in big trials that were run by some South Africans like Linda Gail Becker, who then got astonishing results and have then been able to push this drug to approval much, much quicker than many medications.
What is the next phase then, in terms of this? Is it we are at the point? Well, now that it's been approved in the US by the FDA, what happens next, and what needs to happen for the drug to find its way to South Africa?
So one of the really disappointing and devastating consequences of the US Foreign Aid Pact has been the delay, at least, of us bringing in these medications to do projects aiming to figure out how best to deliver. So we were nowhere near scaling and rolling out everywhere, but now those projects where we were just going to bring in some of the medication to figure some of these issues out around how to deliver it, how to roll it out, has been halted. So we really wait to see what happens with the global situation and rely on this public pressure to drop the cost before we'll be able to access it.
So it's really more about, the next phase really is about bringing it to market and making it accessible to as many countries as possible.
Exactly. As many countries as possible, and once they get into the countries need to work really hard to make sure that the PrEP, the injection, can be accessible to the people who really need it on the ground.
Well, isn't that just one of life's great ironies, that the areas of the world, or the parts of the world where it is most needed, are the ones that can least afford it?
Exactly. And what's even worse is that is where the trials are done to develop the drug.
Yes, yeah.
The trials are done in these places, and they don't get to reap the benefits.
Is there no moral obligation on these companies that are doing this research to say that, as a condition of you being able to run your tests and so forth in our country, that there should be some kind of quid pro quo?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is an ethical imperative for the individuals to be allowed to keep taking this medication, but also for the countries. And I think that's why we're seeing the drug companies moving so much faster on this than what we have ever seen before. They're really we're seeing a lot of push from all sides to try and get this this moving faster than usual, and it does seem to be moving faster than usual. Yeah, I hope so. I'm cautiously optimistic that will happen.
So, Dr. Kate, in terms of the way that it functions, the way that it presents itself, would it be accurate to also, does it qualify as a vaccine?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So
okay. Maybe a question to ask is, how does it differ from, I know that, how does it differ from a vaccine, or the way that a vaccine would work? Yeah.
So practically speaking, the difference between this and a vaccine is that you have to keep taking this medication for it to keep working, whereas a vaccine would be your schedule of 1, 2, or 3 doses that protect you potentially for life, if not for the next few years. Vaccines work through your immune system, so they get your immune system ready to encounter whatever the germ is, so that when they encounter the germ, your immune system is able to fight it off. This is different because it actually fights the virus off itself, essentially. So it has to be in your body for it to work.
Well, clearly the properties of this one suggest that it does stay in the body for quite a period. If you only have to take it twice a year.
100%, and they're looking even at once a year. So it could expand to once a year.
And the condition, I see that there is a condition, though, there is a caveat that it needs to be administered. The injection would need to be administered by a health practitioner. Is that correct? And why is that the case?
Yeah, so the type of injection it has to be at the moment administered by a nurse or a doctor. And many injections are like that. Many of the intramuscular injections are like that. There's a push to try and develop drugs that can be administered on your own, but it's few that are able to do that. And so if you're only getting it once every 6 months, that burden on the clinic and the burden on the patient, well, they're not a patient, you're a person attending, it's quite low just to go and get that injection every 6 months, even though you will still have to attend a nurse or a doctor.
Yeah. Now, the fact that it's, they've opted for, I don't even know if it's a case of opting for an injection, say, as opposed to some orally taken medication. Just talk to us about what is involved in making that kind of decision, or what it's dependent upon, whether the medication is administered orally or using intravenously.
So it's not intravenously because it's not going into.
Oh, it's not going into a vein, but into your muscle, I suppose.
Into your muscle.
Yeah.
So, you mean for from the perspective of the drug itself?
Yes, from the drug. Yes. Does it function better being administered as an injection as opposed to as some type of a tablet?
Yeah. So it depends. In this case, it's all about how long it can last in the body. And this particular medication, when injected, can last for this incredible amount of time.
Yeah.
If you were taking it orally, it wouldn't last. It would be metabolized out of your system much earlier on, and that's the difference.
Okay. And at the point when we do get to the point where it can be rolled out to the entire world, how does that process work then? Would it be a case of government bringing that medication into the country, or would it be then open to private operators who will then maybe make it under license and so forth?
Yeah, so both government and private sector would purchase it. Government would purchase it on tender. I don't know who would be making it yet, but the government would purchase it for the majority of it. Private sector would also purchase it for their clients, but it will be really the government who has to organize the health services around delivering this new innovation. So talking to people, letting them know about it, training healthcare workers, all of that. So there's a lot of organization around delivering this product.
It's exciting indeed. Sounds definitely as a major game changer. But of course, the sooner we can bring the cost down. What was that figure you've got? Was it $20,000 you said?
$28,000 per year.
Wow. And in today's money, that is approximately 476,000 Rand a year. Wow. Yeah, no, certainly is prohibitive, rather prohibitive. Thank you, Dr. Kate. I really appreciate your time this evening.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Dr. Kate Rees is a public health medicine specialist at Nova Health Institute, and she's also the co-chair of the South African AIDS Conference.